Welcome to the Recovery Lab podcast. We're glad you were able to join us. Recovery Lab hopes to destigmatize addiction and normalize recovery.
Our platform provides an avenue to share the many stories of those that have recovered from addiction, providing for the listener the most basic antidote to addiction.
Hope. All right, everybody, we're back. This is episode number 55 of the Recovery Lab podcast series. I'm Drew Hassan.
I'm Daniel Anderson.
We are the Recovery Lab. We are joined today by Ruth Ann Rigby,
Hello, happy Sunday.
pillar of the recovery community,
Oh, yeah, she's a rock star.
a genuine
Absolutely a rock star, yeah.
Everybody loves you.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know how we got you on this podcast.
We've gotten a lot of chatter about your being on the show today.
Look, here's the deal. So everyone, I don't know how, but everyone knows Ruth Ann Rigby. Literally.
Before you got here, I was literally asking him, how does she know everybody?
Yeah.
Like, she's responsible for probably 15% of the guests we've had.
I was going to say a little bit higher, probably closer to
20%.
Yeah. Bryn absolutely loved you. Bryn Knox. She actually helped co-host one of the episodes when Drew was.
I'm so proud of her.
Yeah, she's incredible. She's just an incredible person. And we don't have enough time for me to mention everyone else that's been on this podcast that is, they can directly.
But we appreciate it. We really do.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I appreciate the work y'all are doing.
Of course. So, thank you again. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, a lot of times we're just going to let God kind of feel out the conversation and direct us.
Works best that way.
Yeah, exactly. So, what we're thinking is maybe spending, a few minutes to give a snapshot of what qualifies you to be one of us, an alcoholic or an addict, if you label yourself that, So what qualifies you to be able to help people that are struggling with substance abuse disorders? What's what I would say. So let's take it away. Give us a little bit of a snapshot of what happened, and then let's jump into talking about what it's like now.
Well, I'm going to reintroduce myself if that's okay. My name is Ruth Ann, and I'm an alcoholic.
Okay.
And I've been clean and sober 26 and a half years.
Beautiful.
Which means I really got sober very, very young in my life.
Because you got sober when you were 12?
Yeah, we'll say 12.
That's awesome.
I love being a person in long-term recovery. I take my recovery very seriously, but I didn't get here the easy way. I got here the hard way. I got here, I call it my other life, before my recovery life, really. I was a very successful manager. And I made the mistake one night of stopping at a gas station on the way home from work at about 10:30. And I didn't know they sold drugs there. I was brutally attacked. And then that's when my life forever changed. I also grew up with a parent who was an alcoholic, if you will. And so I have the gene. And so we did not know back then what we know today about trauma and PTSD. And in a short period of time, my life escalated into pure hell. And I had horrible headaches, I had flashbacks, I had night terrors. And what do you do when those things happen? Well, you go to a physician and you describe the symptoms and they medicate the symptoms. And I became very creative when I described my symptoms. Sure. And
it's amazing how quickly we learn what to say to them.
I was a master. But in a short period of 6 months, my life became very unmanageable. I was newly married. My husband at that time was a state trooper. He's a retired lieutenant colonel with the Highway Patrol now, but he's also my hero. And he did not give up on me. But in a short period of time, I became an alcoholic. I became a drug addict. My drug dealer was my physician. I would go in a couple of times a week. They would shoot me up, get me ready for the weekend. And the most important thing for me on Friday was, guess what it would be? It would be that prescription. And what does a drug addict do? They go get the prescription filled.
They sure don't wait.
No, there's no time to waste there.
And so at that time, I went to the pharmacy over there in DeVille Plaza, and I passed out while I was there. And if you don't think it's a humbling experience to have your husband's man come and pick you up at the pharmacy, again, I had only been married for a very short time. And I went in for an evaluation at a hospital here, and I manipulated my way out of it. They said, Miss Rigby, you don't have a problem. Just go and do what you need to do. And, probably a week later is when it got really, really bad. And my husband, he is a career law enforcement officer. He talked to some of his friends at the Bureau of Narcotics, and they said, well, if you love her, get her some help. If not, she's going to be dead. Just go ahead and pick out her cemetery plot. And they were serious. Now we have the PNP. Back then we didn't have a PNP, which is a prescription monitoring program where you can find out what anybody has owned at any pharmacy. And that would have saved my life back then, but he did it the old-fashioned way. He just went to the pharmacy and pulled it. And I wasn't a creative addict. I went to one pharmacy.
Right.
And I am blonde-headed, so it would be very, very hard for me to coordinate going to different pharmacies.
Sure.
So, but, he did the only thing he knew how to do. And I grew up in Jackson. My family knew everybody. And, I had to be court-ordered to treatment because I wasn't willing to go. But I had to go before the judge, and my family knew the judge. I knew the judge. I had to sign, and then I threw up all over his mahogany desk. And I said, let me go. And I went to Whitfield. I'm very proud to say I was a patient at Whitfield because that place saved my life.
Sure.
And back then, we could have longer length of stay in treatment. And so I was in treatment for almost 6 months. I was in detox for, it seemed like eternity, but it was probably realistically 2.5 to 3 weeks. And I came to and I said, dear God, what am I doing here? What am I truly doing here? And my counselor at the time, she brought me into her office. She had a conversation with my husband, and he put his foot down and said, well, if she leaves, I'm going to divorce her. Keep in mind, I'm only a newly married person. And I said, and she says, well, what did you bring to treatment with you? And I said, I brought my Bible. And she was very seriously, and I would demonstrate it, but I can't hear. She says, I want you to go up to your room. I want you to put your Bible under your bed, and when you're on your knees, I want you to pray and ask for acceptance and total surrender. And it talks about a spiritual awakening in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous that was written in 1935. And that's when I had my spiritual awakening, and that's when my life forever changed. And I was in treatment for a very long time, but I never once asked when my discharge was, but I wanted what my counselor had. You have those people in your life that inspire you, and you want to be like they are, or be with the winners. That's what we hear in recovery. We want to stick with the winners.
Right.
And I wanted what she had. And so when I got out of treatment, we went to an apartment. We had our puppy. And for a year, I worked in a kitchen store.
Let me just pause you real quick. So you said that you weren't necessarily willing to go into treatment?
I went under a court commitment.
Right. But something happened, transformation happened in treatment, and it clicked for you.
When I hit my knees and I prayed and I asked for surrender and acceptance, that's when my life forever changed.
Beautiful.
Forever changed. And I never once asked when I was going to leave treatment. It's based on your progress. So, many, many months later, I was able to be discharged. But that's when I decided to be of service. I wanted to volunteer. I wanted to give back. I started volunteering at St. Dominic's Behavioral Health. I went back to school to be an A&D counselor, and I was at St. Dominic's for probably almost 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, experiencing the promises coming true.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well,
and in other people. Getting to see.
And other people.
Right.
Yeah, other people.
That's beautiful. All right, so
it's important to me to always be of service.
Of course. Yeah, Absolutely. I mean, that's where I get 95% of the joy that I have in my life. It's as a result of.
And you come and be of service at the Mississippi Addictions Conference. You come and volunteer. You show up when we need you.
Well, do you know why?
Why?
Because I never want to go back to the way that I was.
There you go.
And I was willing to take suggestions. And what I heard in meetings was, hey, if you get out of yourself, you have a better chance of not going back to your old way of life. So
that is the truth.
That's why I do what I do, because I don't want to ever go back to that guy. That guy
Amen.
was not a friend to anyone, including myself. So I was at a point where I was willing. I was blessed with the gift of desperation.
There's that word again,
yeah.
willing.
Yeah, exactly. And what I think is so crazy and important to note about what you said about your stint at your stay at Whitfield was, and I can relate to this tremendously. When I first got to treatment at Copac, I was constantly looking for a way for me to get out of there.
Oh, yes.
It was uncomfortable.
I was not a nice person. Let me
exactly.
rephrase. I was not a nice person.
And what I love about what you just said is you were willing, and I think that this is very important for people to hear, you were willing to do everything that they said, and you weren't going to ask them for a release date. You were there.
Exactly.
You were there. And that's a common thread that we hear a lot. Jody mentioned this as well when he went to treatment that final time. He didn't want to, or I guess it was maybe Linwood House, I forget, but that was one of the things that he said. I'm not going to force my timeline on you guys. I am willing to do whatever I have to do.
Eventually we get there. I mean, I had that attitude after I'd been to treatment 6 or 7 times.
Right.
I think it's remarkable that you had it the first time you went to treatment.
It was ingrained in everything that we did.
Whitfield has a good program.
Oh,
I went there one time.
I'm a huge advocate for them. I'm a huge advocate for the services that they provide. You know, they have to live through that stigma every day.
Right.
But they do a wonderful, wonderful job out there with all the patients and the different units that they have. And the staff there are kind and compassionate. And, you know, they're breaking their own stigma. You know, when somebody says, oh, my God, you went to Whitfield? Yeah, I did go to Whitfield. And if it's good for me, it's good for you.
There is a stigma surrounding the state hospital.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big place. It doesn't have it.
Well, you know, they do have people there that suffer from exceptional maladies.
They have the sickest of the sick people out there.
Right.
I mean, that's what we need. We need places like that for those that are truly
They need more funding than they have now.
Oh, we need to up their funding. Hey, if you're listening, let's up the funding for the Department of Mental Health and the state
Some
of
the people there don't need to be out on the street.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
It's, you know, they're monsters in there too.
They're constitutionally incapable of getting help. And that's why they're there.
They have monsters that live out there.
Yep, on the forensic building.
Yeah, I mean, that's... society doesn't need that. We're getting a little far afield.
But miracles do happen there, and I'm one of those miracles that came out of there.
Amen.
I had no idea you went to Whitfield.
And out of 35 women that I was in treatment with, I've been told that I'm the only one that's still alive.
Wow.
So those are some statistics that are pretty scary.
Wow.
So.
Well, that's one of the things that we hoped to help by having the podcast is to make recovery normal, try to reduce the stigma, spread the word, the more of us that are
willing
to talk about it, to be out of the closet, so to speak. I mean, I think it helps because I messed my life up in fantastic fashion. Daniel was well on his way to doing the same.
Oh, I was there.
I mean, if I can get sober, I promise anybody can.
Lord knows, if I can get sober, you can get sober.
Yeah, same here.
I think we all have that in common, but I think it's important to always be honest, always be open, and always be willing.
Well, that's the thing that, honesty, honesty reverberates at a level that people can appreciate. Like, when somebody's bullshitting you, and know when somebody's being forthright. And the more that we can be honest about our struggles, the more the next person can say, I struggle the same way. They can find something in that person's story. We talk amongst ourselves about this, and maybe on the show a couple times, about how, I've been sober for over 6 years this time. And there are days where I think about using. I'm not one of these people that it crosses my mind. And I think the majority of people that say they never think about you, I think they're lying. Now, they might not be. I just can't relate to being like that. But
I want to give you an example.
Please.
So I was working in the Dallas area a couple of weeks ago with Eric Button, who was on your show.
Of course.
And I was checking into my hotel. And they were exceptionally happy when you check in. Like they're bouncing off the wall happy. Welcome, and you're this and that. And we have this champagne for you.
Oh,
and
there
I was
we are.
like, oh, it's imported from Mexico.
Oh, well, since it's imported.
And they pushed it and pushed it and pushed it.
Yeah.
And then I looked at them and I said, I need you to stop. I said, I'm a person in long-term recovery. I do not drink champagne, so just stop.
And if it doesn't come from champagne,
and I
it's
stopped.
not champagne.
And I
Mexican champagne.
And so
is that tequila?
I didn't
bubbly tequila.
I didn't want to know, but they gave me a 6-pack of Diet Coke.
There we go.
Hey,
and I was truly happy.
I can do business with Diet Coke all day long.
But see, you have to set a boundary. When somebody is pushing the limit, even today, when my husband and I go to functions where alcohol is, I just choose not to be around people like that or around alcohol. But there are those functions that you have to attend for business and other purposes. But if I get in a situation where I feel uncomfortable, I can say a word and we're out of there.
Right.
So that's how you set that boundary.
We need an open Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I heard this is not something original that I found out, but, anytime it happened, I'm the concession manager at Northwest Rankin High School, and the gentleman that grilled the burgers outside of the concession stand, they were all joking around. Hey, you want a beer? You want a beer? And I was like, I revert back to, and obviously they weren't drinking at
sure.
but something kind of flashed in front of my eyes as far as like, am I ever going to be at an event or something where these guys are going to be there and they're going to think that I'm their buddy and offer me a drink? So I just went ahead and repeated what I've heard a million times before. And I just jokingly said, oh, no, you don't want me to drink. I break out in handcuffs.
Yeah.
And they all like laughed and everything. But the point is made there. I don't drink. Like,
right.
You don't want me to drink. I don't want to drink. Nobody wants me to drink.
Right.
And it's just not a good thing. And I think being in a position to be able to be open and honest and kind of chuckle about the fact that, that's funny. That's not good. That's not good for me. There's a certain amount of freedom in that I don't have to walk around. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not, I'm
kind of proud of it.
I'm incredibly proud. Everything in my life that is good and there's not really bad parts of my life, but everything that's in my life right now is a direct result of me being willing to do something different and get sober, period. My life was a train and it was full speed ahead, heading for a brick wall. And nothing would have changed. I would have died had I not gotten sober. So everything is a result of me trusting God and saying, God, I cannot do this anymore. Please help me. And from that point, God took me by the hand and said, all right, let's do this. But I think that he was waiting for that vote of confidence in him that he can do something different with my life. And he met me where I was at, and the rest is history. One day at a time.
That's kind of what he did for me.
Right.
You asked me about service, and you asked me how I got in this profession, if you will. So I went back to school to be an A&D counselor, and I was that at St. Dominic's for many years. And then somebody came to me from Pine Grove Behavioral Health down in South Mississippi in Hattiesburg, and asked me if I wanted to join their team and set up their alumni program, and I was able to go and do some amazing things there. I did alumni programs before alumni became cool, and that's the truth.
Beautiful. Did you go to Pine Grove?
No, I worked for Pine Grove.
Okay, you just went.
Yeah.
You
Pine
there.
Grove is an extension of Forest General Hospital. It's the largest county hospital in South Mississippi.
Right. Yeah, I went to a 2-week intensive outpatient program there.
Yeah.
It was pretty. I mean, there's a lot of good recovery in Hattiesburg.
There is.
I lived in Hattiesburg for a while. I loved it.
Yeah, that's right.
If my kids didn't live here, I would have stayed there.
It's grown. It's really grown down there.
Yeah, we do a lot of work down there as well, and it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place.
So you were commuting to Hattiesburg?
No, we had an office here in Madison.
Okay.
We had an outreach office in Madison on Key Drive, and I worked out of that office. But then I switched from alumni to business development and marketing, and then I became a national person, and I worked all over the country.
Is that what you do now?
Yeah, and just in a different way.
In a different way.
Yeah.
Can you explain? Tell me how everyone knows who you are. Please tell me how.
You're how we got the Ken Seeley guy.
Right.
Because I picked up the phone and called him and said, "You need to do this."
Okay, well, normal people can't.
How'd you get his phone number?
Because he's a friend of mine.
How is he a friend of yours?
I have a lot of friends. Don't you have friends? I have a lot of friends.
Is it from the nationwide marketing that you do?
Well, it's from that, but it's being a service wherever you go. You know, if I'm going to a conference, I'm all about volunteering. I love to be a volunteer. That's where I've met a lot of people who have become really good friends of mine. I've met them through that way. And I've known Ken and Eric for at least 16, 17 years. And they're just good people, and you meet good people. You never know where you meet good people, and you just become
trudging the road of happy destiny.
There you go. And believe it or not, wherever I am in the country, I can go hit a meeting and meet some cool people,
fellow travelers,
and share some experience, strength, and hope.
Look, it's to the point. I'm just going to be completely and utterly honest with you right here. So we could have Brad Pitt on the program, and okay, yeah, he's sober, from what everyone says. It'd be a great guest on the podcast. I don't think that I would be nervous at all about Brad Pitt coming on the podcast. When you agreed to come on the podcast, my heart was like, "Oh my God, I hope we don't mess this up." Ruth Ann is big. She's incredible. She's a power
I am
horse.
not all that.
You are. Yes, you are. In my head, don't ruin it for me, Ruth.
Okay, I won't.
No, but the point is, all joking aside, I was. It wasn't nervousness. It was pure, unadulterated excitement to get to talk to you.
Wow, yeah.
That's what you mean to me. And that's from the personal experience when we talked for the first time at the Ag Center. When was that?
February.
Yeah, that was February. Gosh. Yeah. There was just there was something. I'm sure I annoyed the heck out of you following you around and talking to you, but
I actually thought it was refreshing.
Okay, good.
Because, you showed up, you helped us set up, you helped us clean up, and we really didn't know you, but you immediately got into service. And when you do that, things happen. And God puts those people in your life for a reason.
100%.
And sometimes you just have to sit back and listen.
Exactly. Like that day, I don't remember exactly what it was. I was supposed to have work. I certainly didn't plan on going to the not the Hilton, but the
Sheraton.
The Sheraton. I certainly didn't plan any of that. I didn't plan going to the Ag Center. It was just in sobriety. I am in a place where I can listen to my heart for the first time, and I saw on probably your socials or somewhere that there was that thing going on, and something in my heart just said, why don't you go over there and see if you can help or see if you can do anything. And in sobriety, I can listen to that voice. Yeah. I'm not able to listen to that voice when I'm in active addiction, unfortunately, or whatever. I'm just not able to do that. So that day, it was just, I feel like that was just me listening to God's gentle nudge. And as a result of that, you're here today, and
it's National Recovery Month.
That's right. That's right. So let's talk a little bit about that as well. Like that's a pretty awesome thing. So tell us exactly, are you involved with that direct? Like, is there an organization, or is this just
it's a national organization because it's called National Recovery Month. And so like this time next year, wouldn't it be cool if there were recovery events all over the state of Mississippi? We had a 5K, we had another event, and we did some cool things surrounding recovery, and we raised money to help those in their greatest time of need.
So you're part of that organization?
Well, no, anybody can volunteer.
Okay.
I mean, it's through SAMHSA, it's through Voices and Faces of Recovery. There's a lot of great tools out there. I mean, they have all the templates already created for National Recovery Month, and you can send them your events. They have great ideas that we can incorporate here in Mississippi. But I'm one person. You're one person. Drew's one person. But if we got together, we could probably do some cool things.
Look, don't threaten me with a good time.
Well, I'm threatening us for 2024, September, National Recovery Month. Let's get out there and do some cool stuff and show people
Sky's the limit.
That we can recover, and we do recover.
Look.
And there's a lot of help out there. A lot of help out there.
This is the beginning of something very, very big.
Oh, I can feel it. I can feel it.
Let's do this.
And so, I was at Pine Grove for several years. Then God opened another door for me to go do some amazing things with an adolescent program up in Searcy, Arkansas. And I just go where he really, like you say, he gives you a gentle nudge. He gives me a gentle nudge. And sometimes he has to tell me to sit down and be quiet, and I just listen and go do and serve.
Me too.
And so that's important to you may not be somewhere long, or you may be somewhere a long time, but it's just important to really, listen to your heart. I'm very active in my church. I'm active in our church's counseling center when I'm not traveling at the Center for Hope and Healing at Broadmoor. I mean, we truly help. We run to the hurting. We run to the hurting, and I do that all over the country. And, you keep asking me how I know so many people. I really don't know how to answer that, is that I just do the next right thing, and I show up when I'm supposed to.
I love that. That's the answer.
So do you go around the country marketing specific treatment centers?
So I do, but wherever I'm, like right now I'm with J. Flowers Health Institute, and we have some really cool things coming down the pipeline that I can maybe come back and talk about at another time.
Sure.
But it's just really helping people get to the right level of care no matter what.
So treatment centers or treatment institutions, depending on, I guess, what they, we typically talk about treatment centers like Copac or Pine Grove or Copac 2.0, Defining Wellness.
Yeah.
So they will hire somebody that just goes around and...
Well, they hire business development people, and they hire marketers. Like, I'm the chief strategy officer at J. Flowers Health Institute, so I wear many hats.
Will go to, say, Atlanta and talk to the such and such hospital and say, hey, look, if you have patients that need this kind of treatment, this is what we offer.
But here's what I will tell you. I do a lot of conferences. I speak at a lot of conferences, and it's just really being that person, being that go-to person that people call when they need help. And so whether that's a therapist, whether it's a treatment center, whether it's a family member, that's what I do. I can't explain to you why all these people call me, but it's just because they trust me and they know that I'm going to take care of them and get them to the right level of care no matter what, whether it's to J. Flowers Health Institute, whether it's to Pine Grove, whether it's to some other facility. So we do what's right for that individual. But I also want to say that we do a lot of good work here in Mississippi, and there should never be a person that's a resident of the state of Mississippi they should know that they can always get the help they need no matter what, because there's a lot of funding in the state of Mississippi through the opioid and heroin funding. There is no reason why a Mississippi resident cannot get that care that they need based on the ability to pay.
Why are so many people having to wait to get into treatment?
Well, because sometimes people don't know how to navigate that journey. And that's really when you pick up the phone and call your local community health center.
Well, let's try to spread some awareness. So there have been a few times where I needed to get in the Harbor House, or I, needed to get in the Pines, or I needed to get in somewhere.
How long ago was that?
This was a few years.
Okay. So the times have changed. And so they have put in an 800 number for the Mississippi Department of Mental Health. So you can call the 800 number. I do not have it here at my hands, but we can certainly provide it to them later. And they can route you to the right facility based on where you are. There's also the mobile crisis teams that the Department of Mental Health started several years ago, and they're in every county. And so if there is a true mental health crisis, they will come to you. They will do an assessment, and they will see if you're a danger to yourself and others. And if you are, they're going to be sure that you get to the right level of care, to the nearest emergency room or to the crisis stabilization units that they have throughout the state of Mississippi.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And that's important. And sometimes it's just trying to figure out how to navigate services. And so a lot of people call me to help them navigate services.
That frustrates me more than anything, is just not being able to find out the information that's out there that can help people, that can.
Well, it's really changed a lot in the last 2 to 3 years. We started the Opioid and Heroin Summit in 2012, many years ago, before there was actually, we just saw what was happening in our state of Mississippi, and a group of us came together and said, we're tired of it.
We see the writing on the wall with fentanyl and all that.
We need to be able to create some things. And so Ken Seeley was one of the first speakers that came to that. And because I picked up the phone and called him and said, this is what I need, and he came.
Like a boss.
And so so I appreciated that opportunity. But we have had the Opioid and Heroin Summit. We did not have it COVID year. We had it in 2022. We did not have it this year, but we will have it in 2024. Honestly, we ran out of bandwidth this year because we had a lot of changes coming down the pipeline.
Sure.
But if somebody is listening to us today and they have a family member that's struggling, they can certainly reach out to me. They can reach out to their community mental health center. They can reach out to their family. They can reach out to their preacher. There's a lot of ways we can help people, but it's just really giving them that gentle nudge that they need into the right direction.
It's beautiful. And I want to, I feel like I need to say this. Anything that you're passionate about, projects, things that are happening in the area or out of the area, and you're passionate about it, you're going to be involved in it, I am more than happy, and to the point of being incredibly excited to replicate that first experience you and I had at the Ag Center.
Well, we do have something exciting coming up in December. We have the annual holiday networking luncheon and toy drive that a group of us came together probably almost 20 years ago and started. It started at Costas's Matthias's Daddy's Restaurant over on McWillie Drive.
Burger House.
At Bill's. And it started with like 6 people. And then today it's grown, and we're at Broadmoor Baptist Church on December the 11th from 11:30 to 1. And it's the annual holiday networking luncheon and toy drive. So you come and we really celebrate those people with boots on the ground, like the therapists, the case managers, the peer recovery specialists. I mean, just everybody that really makes an impact on a day-to-day basis. And so a couple of years ago, we saw that the Boys and Girls Club of Central Mississippi, they needed a toy partner because everybody was hitting and missing. And so we took on that, and we were really able to do some cool things with them. And then during COVID, we saw that first responders' children really needed some help with toys and things like that. So we have added first responder children to the annual holiday networking luncheon and toy drive. So we also honor our own at the luncheon. It's very quick. It's only an hour and a half because we're very mindful of people's times, but it's a very impactful event. So we have the champion in recovery. This is someone that is an advocate in our community who really has boots on the ground fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves. So we honor them with the Champion in Recovery Award, and I think you've had some of those award winners on. I would say. I know they have been. And then we created the Difference Maker Award. And that could be a company or an individual that is, making difference. This year, we're adding another bandwidth to that to really honor our first responders that are very active in community. And so we're going to have a community activist award for first responders and then a difference maker for first responders. So those are things that we're working on. And, that's 100 days away.
Yeah.
100 days away.
Yeah.
And
Anything leading up to that you think I could be of service to? I'm absolutely.
And we'll be glad to advertise it too.
Oh, well, that's
100%.
great. Right now we're.
We ought to add a notifications section to like the beginning,
I
like
like
what's
that.
new and what's happening and how you can get involved.
So how
do it.
that works with us? A lot of treatment providers come together as host sponsors, and we just want to be able to pay for the event. It's catered by our friends at Bravo's and Broad Street because we just love those guys.
Jeff
and,
Good.
And they take care of us. They have for many, many years, Avon and his team. So we have a $1,500 sponsorship and we have a $3,000 sponsorship. So we're opening up sponsorships. They opened up Friday, actually.
Okay.
And so we're trying to, and we usually have a great turnout of people from all over the country. Treatment providers from all over the country come and take part in it because they want to be, it's their way of giving back also. So that's some kind of cool stuff.
That's super cool.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So what do you do for fun? What do you do when you're not working, or is work fun?
I mean, you give and give and give and
right.
give.
What do you? I know you got some puppies that you love.
Oh, I love my Callie and my Darby.
Yes,
they're our
yes.
twins. They're 10.
Oh wow.
They're chocolate Cocker Spaniels.
Right.
And we just love them. So, I mean, I don't have children, so they are my children, if you will. We live out on a farm in Canton, and we have four-wheelers. We like to decorate for holidays. So, like, our front entryway is all ready for Halloween.
Yeah.
So, we moved from Jackson 2 years ago.
Okay.
I had lived in the same house I grew up in.
Oh,
off
wow.
of 220. Off of 220 and 49. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've seen a lot of things.
I bet you have.
I'm just grateful I was married to the law is all I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge perk.
Yeah.
I bought a lot of drugs over there.
I did a lot of drugs over there. Did all
Yeah.
sorts of
Off of
scandalous.
Forest Avenue, huh?
Yeah, that's a scandalous.
It's
activities.
popping off at 220 and 49.
Oh, I'm telling you. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. But, they're trying to get some things under control.
They're not trying hard enough.
Well, I tell you, I'm glad I live in Madison County now.
So look, you didn't answer my question.
What was that?
What do you do for fun? What do you love? How do you decompress?
Oh, that is a
Or do you need to decompress?
Sometimes I need to recharge.
Okay.
But, I love being a service in the community, just doing different community impact events, not necessarily related to addiction or anything like that. My husband and I started a nonprofit called First Responders of Mississippi.
Right.
About 6 years ago, where we help first responders, their agency, and families in their greatest time of need. And it's not just if they have a behavioral health issue or a substance abuse issue. It's really life on life's terms. There's a lot of first responders that need help and they don't know it.
Sure.
They're career law enforcement officers or firefighters that have just been in that path of saving lives on a day-to-day basis. And eventually, if you don't practice self-care, it gets you. And so we like to be of service any way that we can to help them in their greatest time of need.
And Chris Bates helps out with that organization too, doesn't he?
Let me talk about Chris Bates
Please
for just
do.
a minute. So
He's incredible.
You were texting me. I was in his office. He takes care of our website and does some cool stuff for us. But I've known Chris for a long time because he was the executive director of the American Diabetes Association back in the day. And I served on his board. And so I've known Chris for a long time. And he does some really cool things over at Agora Eversol and his staff. And he takes care of our website and and that kind of stuff. So I was in his office that day, and you were texting me. I was like, hey, Chris, you need to be on this podcast.
So that's how that worked out.
I did. I looked straight at him. I said, you're going to be on this podcast. Get ready.
What I love, I loved everything about that conversation. I had a blast talking, but one thing that really, really stuck out to me about the conversation and about him was the fact that he has the insulin pump.
He's type 1.
Yeah, and
I thought he had a beeper when he got here.
and
That's old school.
Yeah, I don't know. If
I asked him, I was like, why do you have a beeper?
Yeah, and
It's a life-saving beeper.
right, and that was he equated it to if he doesn't take his medicine with recovery every day, if he doesn't have that recovery pump on his hip, he's going to die. And something about that when he said that, it absolutely clicked. And I think about that probably every day.
Yep.
I think about him in that conversation every day because, I hop on a 7:30 meeting in Dallas, the Preston group, every morning. And that is my medicine. That's how I get I get in on the ground floor. I get my medicine. And I think about that every single day about him and his insulin pump there.
I was in Houston working this past week, and I went to a colleague and I went to the Bay Club there in Houston.
Sure.
It was like the coolest club. I mean, they had a bookstore, they had T-shirts, and they had those cool things like Yana's doing.
Merch.
Right.
They had merch.
Yana's got merch now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they do. You can order it online.
I've got the
That's crazy.
the Yana 555.
I have that. I have it too. I have it in red.
Yeah, I got mine is black.
So
We
I
need to
kinda
get some
dig
more
it.
merch.
yeah,
we
get
do
it.
need to
We
get
have
some-
Recovery Lab T-shirts that are for sale, everybody.
Everybody needs a Recovery Lab T-shirt
Or a
They're for
Recovery
sale.
Lab hoodie.
Get some different colors.
That's what it's, and
Oh, yeah.
so we need to get some. We're in.
I can introduce you to some people if you need that.
Yeah, actually. Hey, and you know what?
She's like the Godfather.
I want to.
I don't know what to say about
So the other day, I got a letter from Costas over at Bridge to Recovery, and she sent the Recovery Lab a substantial chunk of change, and perhaps we could use that to order new shirts.
We should.
And thank you, Costas, for that. That was
Shout out to Costas.
unbelievable.
Hello, Costas.
Yeah, that was.
She's probably in her cabin up in Canton
Yeah. My
with no service.
Yeah. My tongue just kind of dropped out like the cartoons. Like it was above and beyond anything that anyone has ever done for us.
You're doing good things, and she loves to do things like that, and that's the beauty of it.
She's an incredible person.
Things will
This
come-
is super rewarding for us.
Oh, sure.
100%.
It has to be.
It is. It is. I mean, we wouldn't.
This is not a money-making endeavor.
No.
Well, y'all have come a long way though since those first podcasts.
Yes,
This is
yes,
pretty
yes.
The first
impressive.
podcast didn't have any cameras.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there was. I saw. I don't know. Drew and I were friends on Facebook, and I saw that he had started the Recovery Lab, and it was that little voice again. It was something inside me saying, "Go, be a part of that somehow. Weasel your way in there somehow." And I did, and Drew has just been unbelievably kind, and as a result of us doing this podcast.
This is all his doing.
No.
Yes,
this
everything in here is.
Here's
has
the
been a
common
team
thread
effort.
of all of us. We do not like to be the center of attention. This is the common denominator right here.
No. But as a result of this, Drew did everything in here. I don't know what you're talking about. But as a result
I
of
did it all.
Just take credit. Moving right on.
He's just an albatross.
as a result of the Recovery Lab podcast, I now have a real friend. Like I've never had. Every friend that I've had, it's been someone that I want to place in my corner so that when I need something, I'll be able to tap into whatever.
Possible resource.
Right. And Drew has been my first real friend, honestly. We talk on a regular basis, pretty much daily. I can tell him difficult things. He can tell me difficult
the
things.
Promises coming true.
I think so. I think so.
Recovery is very real. Recovery is very real.
Right.
And I think I want families to know that it's important that they can get their loved one help, and it's important for families to get in recovery also.
Right.
Because if Deborah and Jeff Jay wrote a book, It Takes a Family.
Right.
And it does. It takes a family. And families need time to heal, because sometimes when you're in a family unit that is struggling, who are the first people that are impacted by addiction?
The loved ones.
Right.
The loved ones. And who are the last people to get help?
The addict.
No.
Oh,
they're the first ones.
Right.
Who are the last people to get help in the family system?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And so that's what you have to remember that. So my mom was a person in long-term recovery. She had 25 years of sobriety when she passed away.
Wow.
And so we were always involved in, I was always involved in Al-Anon and things like that.
I was just about to ask.
And so I think I want families to know that it's just as important for them to go to their meetings as it is for alcoholics and addicts to go to their meetings. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, my family is heavily involved in Families Anonymous and Al-Anon in Dallas.
I love it when you meet somebody that says they're a black belt in Al-Anon. Have you heard that term?
We've had one on.
Oh.
And she is interesting to listen to.
Oh, I bet.
And to share the struggles that she had, and she wasn't the one that used to excess.
Right.
But to see how, and her loved one eventually died from the disease. And it's interesting. And Daniel even convinced me to go to some Al-Anon meetings.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I found them to be...
It's self-care.
Oh, it's incredible. There's something to be said about learning how to detach with love. That was something that I was not capable of doing, and certainly didn't know what the term meant. Yeah. And that individual that was on the program with us, she is a regular at the meeting that I go to in Jackson every Wednesday.
You love the person, hate the disease.
Right.
The person, hate the disease.
I wasn't able to make that, and the reason that I started going to Al-Anon was because, I had an issue trying to control other people in my life.
Oh, imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. To try to get them to do things the way that I want. And which is just not healthy. It's not healthy. And it was getting to a point where I was really struggling with it. And I talked to my AA sponsor, and he was like, well, a friend of mine goes to Al-Anon. Why don't you reach out to him?
Give that a try.
Right, yeah. And lo and behold, it's absolutely changed my life.
It will change your life.
It has changed my life. And I don't try to control this person anymore. And it's unbelievably freeing. Tapping into the brief conversation here on Al-Anon, my family is going through some stuff with a loved one, of someone that's very, very close to us and to me. And this person is just in a spiral. And
sorry to hear that.
Yeah. My mom and dad were actually here in town this weekend for a very, very short time. And we had numerous conversations surrounding this person, and you could really, really tell that all three of us that were involved in that conversation, we make ourselves, we are involved with Al-Anon. Yeah. And
you can tell.
Yeah, the tone of the conversations, the results, and the just the conversations that were had were they were not hateful. They were healthy, and it's
amazing what can happen to us. Right. When our own house gets in order.
I know.
Look, it really opened my eyes when we had Brad Garraway on.
Yeah.
Hey, Brad Garraway.
Hey, Brad.
Garraway. And he and I served on the NCAD board together.
He was so cool. And I think was he the one that we had to have on twice because the audio didn't record?
Yeah. I lost the episode.
He towed the line and he showed back up for us.
Yeah.
But it really opened my eyes how much Brad, for people listening, Brad does intervention work. And how much
Clear path interventions,
and to see how much from the outset the interventionists are maybe is equally concerned about what help the family is going to get.
Oh, it's
as
you
they
have to
are,
help the whole family.
Right,
You have to
or
help
the whole. It's
family.
just going to be a house of cards.
And it will fall. It will fall. And I'm really lucky that, my husband and I, this September the 28th, we will celebrate 27 years.
That's beautiful.
That's our anniversary. And
how long have you been sober?
26 and a half.
Woo. It was rough in the beginning, wasn't it? He thought, damn, I don't know what I signed up for.
He's a trooper in every sense of the word.
He is. But he's also my hero.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Because he fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself.
Right.
And I fight for people and advocate for people every day. And that's what I want people to, you ask me what I do for fun. I don't like to travel or anything like that because I travel so much for work.
Right.
But when I'm home, I want to be home. That's like when I leave here today, he's going to go get on a tractor and I'm probably going to go get on a Skag, and put my Bose headset in and listen to some CC Winans probably this afternoon.
Hallelujah.
That's beautiful.
Hallelujah.
Also, Bose, if you're willing and able to sponsor the Recovery Lab podcast,
Let me make a call.
I have two Bose. I have the Quiet Comfort 1 and the Quiet Comfort 2.
So I can't do this. I can't do this. I
can't outside of here.
I have the ones that plug into my ears and it goes into my phone.
Okay.
I'm still old school that way.
Okay.
I'm still old school.
Well, you don't have to worry about battery power on those.
No, it just charges itself.
Yeah.
But, one takeaway I really want people that are listening is if they have a family member or a loved one that is struggling, all they have to do is reach out and contact me. They can contact me through First Responders of Mississippi, or they can contact me through J. Flowers Health Institute, and we can figure it out together. And I can certainly connect them to the people that they need to be in.
Would you be willing to put an email address out there?
They can contact me at info@firstrespondersofms.com.
Beautiful.
What was that email address again?
Info at the @ first, FIRST, responders of ms.com.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so they can shoot me an email.
Look, the longer the internet's around, the longer these URLs are getting.
Yeah.
Well, Chris Bates will probably call me tomorrow and say, why don't you just put info@from.com?
Yeah.
But then nobody would know what from was.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So.
But look, listen. Do you realize what's just gone on?
No.
Do you see that?
What is we looking at?
We're already at 52 minutes.
I know time
Wow.
flies.
Time flies when we're having fun here in the
Look, we're at the
recovery
end,
lab.
and I get to ask my two favorite questions of the whole podcast.
Cue Drew.
What do you do poorly in your recovery?
What do I do poorly?
What do you do poorly? The reason I came up with the last two questions.
And there's a follow-up question.
There's a follow-up.
What do
Is
I
I
do
wanted
poorly?
people to come on, and I would ask them what they did poorly, and they would be, they would have this honest moment and aha, and then they'd come back in like 6 months and we'd talk about it again. That's originally where this idea came from. But what do you do poorly?
When I forget to do my meditation in the morning, one of my favorite books. That's what I do poorly.
What's your favorite book?
Oh, I have so many.
Okay, that's fair.
I have so many, but the book I'm talking, like I always read from the 24-hour day book.
Sure.
And I always read from the NA basic text.
Okay.
And then I do from Language of Letting Goes. And you should see my phone. I'll show you when we get off all the apps on my phone. Because if I don't have a book, then I have my app. Because I don't travel with my books. But it's just, I fail at that when I can't find my book, or I just completely forget to do it because I'm overwhelmed. So I don't like to do things poorly, but I do that poorly.
In the true alcoholic fashion.
In the true alcoholic fashion.
Okay. What do you do well in your recovery?
I have always done what the treatment team told me to do on a day-to-day basis. I get up, I pray, I meditate.
Teachable, willing,
all those things. I have to be honest. I have to be open-minded. I have to be willing. I have to be of service. Those are things that I strive for every day. And sometimes I may have to go start my day over. I may have to go to the bathroom and hit my knees. It doesn't matter what's going on. I will go and start my day off over any time that I need to.
Anytime.
And those are my things I do good and the things I don't do so good.
I think it's important for people to hear what we don't do well.
Absolutely.
Because it's so commonplace for people. I'm this and I'm that. And
Well,
I'm
I'm not all those things.
I can't stand that.
Oh, well, I mean, sometimes I forget to do I forget to do the most simplest things, like a book.
Right.
Yeah. It's easy to do. I mean, you got a lot of great things going on in your life, and it's easy to lose sight of the things that got us where we're at sometimes. For me, at least. I can't speak for you, but yeah, absolutely.
Well, and for me, God is the center of everything that I do.
100%.
So that's me.
And that's why you're where you're at right now, and reasonably happy in life.
I love life. I'm happy.
I know.
I'm happy, joyous, and free.
Isn't that amazing?
And that's what God does for us.
100%. 100% of the time. All right, Drew. Well, do you have any other questions you would like to ask?
Just to say thank you for taking the time to come.
Oh, I'm so
from the bottom of my heart. I mean, I really
thank you.
All the guests. It really means a lot to me that y'all are willing to give of your time.
Well, I love what y'all are doing here, and y'all are continuing to grow on a day-to-day basis. And I just thank you for what you do for our community and our state.
Well, thank you.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.